Today we reflect upon what could be called the events leading toward Jesus' crucifixion. Whilst it's true that it had been simmering for some time, our attention is drawn toward Pontius Pilate. Now he was the governor of Judea, and we're going to reflect today upon what happened when he met face to face with Jesus. Now Pilate, because of his position, was expected to make decisions that would ensure that peace was kept right across the land. Although he was a man of great power and authority, it seemed that he also listened to the voices around about him. Jesus had been brought before Pilate by the leading priests and the elders, where they made allegations and false accusations against him. Pilate was surprised that Jesus made no response to any of those charges. Now it so happened that every year it was customary for the governor to release just one prisoner to the people, a prisoner that they wanted. There was, as the Bible describes him, a rather notorious prisoner called Barabbas. Now he had been involved in murder sort of like a gangland killing from what I can understand. Pilate offered Jesus to the crowd for release, or this notorious criminal, Barabbas. But while all this was happening, Pilate's wife sent an urgent message to her husband, telling him about a very unsettling dream that she had experienced overnight. And this dream was regarding Jesus. She urged her husband to leave that innocent man alone. Now, at the very same time, it seems that the Jewish leaders, the priests and the elders, were inciting the crowds and calling for Barabbas to be released. Pilate turned it back to the crowd and said to them, "Well, what should I do with Jesus? Crucify him." The mob roared even louder, "Crucify him!" They shouted. Pilate saw that he wasn't getting anywhere at all, and in fact it seemed as though the crowd was about to erupt into a riot, just the very thing that he didn't want. So he took a bowl of water and washed his hands of that situation, claiming no responsibility. The gathered crowd gladly accepted that responsibility. Now I have a couple of comments here that I would like to make. There is in me a part of me which says that I feel for Pilate in his position. He was under enormous pressure. However, when we look at what happened, simply he listened to the wrong voices. God had provided, through Pilate's wife, the truth. Earlier, when he met Jesus, he asked, "What is truth?" Truth was standing in front of him and staring him in the face, but he did not recognise it. Instead, he followed the crowd, as it were. Crowds can get very noisy, but it doesn't mean that they are right. Although I didn't see the grand final just a couple of days ago, I can imagine that it was very noisy. There would have been a roar. There's only one winner in the game of football. But we're talking here about something which is much deeper and much more incredibly serious. We're talking about life and death. We're talking about truth. What can I learn from this passage of Scripture? As I look around our world today, I hear a lot of voices which are telling me what I should be doing, what I should be believing, and how I should be living my life. Let me tell you, let me warn you, this is serious. It can lead to life or it can lead to death. Which is the right voice to listen to and follow? This Jesus who was crucified proved that what he said was truth. He was crucified, but he overcame the power of death and he rose to life again. In fact, it was all a part of God's plan of salvation. Sin, and this is simply putting it very simply, comes with a penalty. Let me explain it. We know that if we do something wrong, we know deep down that we can expect a consequence. If we speed off down the road, the chances are that eventually we will be caught. We will be caught, and there will be a penalty for us to pay. Now, the scriptures tell us that the penalty for sin is death. But the good news is that Jesus, who was perfect in every way, took our sin upon himself, and in so doing he died our death. He stepped into our place and exchanged his perfectness for our imperfectness. Oh, we still die physically, but we are born again spiritually. In other words, as that old ditty says, born once, die twice. Born twice, die once. It's time to listen to what is behind all the noise that is around us in this time of history in which we live. Truth is being called lies. Lies are being called truth. In the words of Pilate, what is truth? I stand with Jesus, who made this claim in John 14:6. He said, I am the way, the truth and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. Words of Jesus. So what voices are you listening to today? And where will they lead you? It's worth thinking about and thinking about deeply. May God bless you in abundance and give you wisdom and understanding as to what is going on around us in all of the noise that we are facing in this world in which we live. May God grant you that blessing and wisdom.